I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your host, Jamie Jackson.
Hey Lurkers, it's Jamie. Welcome to episode 19. You're probably expecting the missing 411 Jared Adedero case this week. However, because we had back-to-back episodes that were over an hour long, and because I have just gotten back from a week-long vacation, I have opted to push the missing 411 case to next week. So episode 20 that comes out next Friday will be the missing 411 case of Jared Adedero. I just wanted to make sure I was able to devote the right amount of time for that. It's a pretty detailed and in-depth case, and it's one that has kind of stuck with me. I don't want to call it my favorite because nobody wants to say that the case of a missing child is their favorite, but it's the one of the cases in Missing 411 that really sticks with me. And I just want to make sure that I'm able to devote the right amount of time to it. I don't want to feel like I'm rushing through or skipping things to save time. Today, what I'm going to talk about is an investigation that I did in a private residence. It was myself, my cousin Kelly, and my aunt. And when we did this investigation, we were able to record quite a few EVP. And there's a couple that I would say are just about considered Class A. For those of you who may not be up on the paranormal investigation lingo, if you are a first-time listener, I want to explain EVPs. So EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomena. Basically, it's where you're using a device that can record sound, and while you're recording, you're picking up voices of people who aren't there. So you could use a digital recorder, you can use a cassette recorder, you can use, you can pick it up on the sound on a video camera. I even believe that they were able to get EVPs on the old reel-to-reel recording devices. I actually remember one time back in the beginning stages of my ghost hunting and making my younger brother, carry my pink boombox on his shoulder through the National Cemetery in Gettysburg. And we actually did pick up some sounds of drums, but I can't tell you 100% that they weren't possibly drums being played in the distance. Neither one of us remembered hearing them. And that's the thing with EVP. When you're doing an EVP session, a lot of times you ask questions and you receive answers to the questions that you ask. But when you're actually recording them, you don't hear that answer in real time. You only hear it on the playback of the recording. You can also get recordings not asking questions, just leaving a recorder somewhere. You can be filming something and end up recording somebody's voice or sound on the video camera, and it's not a sound that was actually there that you could hear at the time. So that's what an EVP is. By Class A are those EVPs that you can hear clearly and you know exactly what they're saying. It sounds like somebody's actually speaking. I have a couple of these, not a lot. It doesn't happen super often, but I do think that some of the ones that I have on this case, a couple of them are borderline. They're close to Class A. So this investigation took place in an old log cabin house that is located in a rural area of Maryland, not too far from the Gettysburg battlefield, which is important to know. And I had the family contact me because they had activity at the house, but they said that it always seemed to be more active during the month of August. Their dog didn't want to come in the house sometimes. They had seen full-bodied apparitions of an older woman in their kitchen. They had all kinds of stuff happening, but there was a story associated with the house that there was a wounded Confederate soldier that had made his way from the Battle of Gettysburg to this farm, and the people there on the farm were nursing him back to health in the corn crib. They had him in their corn crib on the property of the farm. Prior to the actual investigation, I looked into the history of the property. And just like you can do a genealogy on a family, you can also kind of do a house genealogy. I have done it for my home. I've looked into it for other properties where you just try to find out who lived there, the age of the place, things like that. So all of the information that the current owners were giving me about this residence were accurate as far as the family history, who had owned the house, who had lived there. And they had also mentioned that there was a daughter of the house that had died there. I want to say, if memory serves correctly, that she died from scarlet fever. They gave me her name, so I was able to verify that information through research into the family's history, into the genealogy. I found her information on the daughter's death. So I confirmed the name, I confirmed that she had died, the year she had died, and all of that information. So it's time to actually go for the investigation. And when we arrived, of course, as I said, it was myself, Kelly, and my aunt going to do the investigation. And the two new homeowners, a husband and wife, were present. And there was also another woman that was present who was a former owner. She, I think, was related to the family who owned the house originally or something. She and the current owners talked. It turned out that they were actually related distantly, very distantly, when they looked at history. It was the three of them and the three of us. We actually had a relatively active night. We did not see anything. We did not get anything on the video, on the infrared cameras, nothing like that, nothing out of the ordinary, but we were getting pretty decent EVPs, and we had several different areas going on. So in the garage used to be the site, I think, of the corn crib, where the old corn crib was, where the family was nursing this wounded soldier. So in the garage, we had one of our stationary infrared cameras set up to record everything in the garage. And that was like an 8mm handheld camcorder. It was on a tripod. It was a Sony camcorder. It had the infrared or the night vision setting. So we had that recording. From the moment we set it up, we turned it on, it was recording the whole time. And in that room, occasionally I also have what's referred to as a shack hack. And what that is, basically, there used to be a store called Radio Shack. And back in the day, when you were a ghost hunter, you went to Radio Shack for a lot of cool stuff to make your own equipment. You didn't buy all this fancy crap. You made it yourself, figured it out yourself, did stuff like that. So the shack hack is basically a handheld Radio Shack AM/FM radio, and it's been hacked, which is the hacked part of the name. Somebody has hacked into it to make it so that you can lock it while it's scanning stations. So you put it on the AM channels, you hit scan, and you then lock it in place. So it continuously is skipping through AM channels. Now, if you're familiar with AM radio, there is a lot of white noise when you're skipping through channels on the AM frequency. So in essence, this is generating a lot of white noise, and you would get random words coming out of that. So it's kind of like the ghost box. I only paid $40 for it. I actually think I bought it from Dave Schrader when I went to the Phenomenology, I think it was Phenomenology 102. So it was their second Phenomenology convention that they had in Gettysburg. In fact, I know that's where I bought it. So thanks, Dave. Still use the shack hack. I would rather use that than any super expensive ghost box. We have the shack hack, and in addition to the shack hack, I had a mini cassette recorder that I would use to record continuously while the shack hack would scan through the channels. And I didn't play that constantly the whole time. I would just go in and turn it on occasionally in the garage. In the house, I had 4 infrared cameras set up in various rooms, run down to a DVR recorder, and set up with a monitor, a TV monitor, so that we could monitor these 4 rooms from the main living room area. And the rooms were upstairs. Most of it were the rooms upstairs, and I think we had the kitchen wired as well, because the kitchen was an area of high activity. And then we had another Sony camcorder with night vision capabilities on a tripod in the backyard, because there was activity sometimes in the yard. So we had that set up, videotaping continuously in the yard area. So that was all of the equipment that was set up. Now, we all had digital cameras and we had digital recorders. And the digital recorders that we use are Panasonic RRDR60s. You cannot find these anymore. They're selling on eBay for ridiculous amounts of money. It's like $1,500 and up if you want to buy a used one. Panasonic is not making these anymore. When I purchased mine, they were starting to discontinue them because they were recording voices of people who weren't there. And it had to do with the frequency range that these were able to pick up. So these are the recorders that we're using, the digital recorders that we have. We still use them. That's the recorder that we still use. We have a couple of them between us. Throughout the night, we got quite a few EVP. And the first EVP that I am going to share with you, we were in the kitchen. This is the area where it said that the daughter who died of the fever, she stayed in the kitchen area. It's where they were nursing her, trying to nurse her back to health. And we were asking her if she was really sick, and we get a response. So I'll go ahead and play that for you.
Were you really sick?
So I don't know how clear you can hear that or not, but it's, we ask, were you really sick? And we get the response. It's kind of like a whisper where it says, yeah.
Were you really sick?
That was kind of heartbreaking. As a parent, you hate to think that in this room that you're in, there's this child who isn't going to make it, is really sick, and she ends up dying. She dies right there in front of her whole family. And that EVP is pretty clear. So the next example of EVP that I have is pretty typical. We get it almost every investigation we go on. And I'm going to play that for you now.
Jamie, Kelly, and Pat, is there anybody here? Oh,
So I don't know if you can make it out or not, but we think it says go away, which we get in various different places. There's a location in Virginia that we seem to get that quite a bit. Perhaps that'll be an episode down the road. Is it go away? I don't know. Sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're not, but that's what we think it is.
Jamie, Kelly, and Pat, is there anybody here? Oh,
This next one, we ask if they can tell us their name. I'll go ahead and let you listen to it and then break it down for you afterwards.
tell me your name.
So after we ask it to tell us its name, it actually seems to say the name Martha several times in various different ways.
Tell me your name.
And in addition to that, I want to play this next one as well. It's a whisper. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. Now this one is the one that is very clear. This is the one I think is pretty close. This and the yeah, I think are pretty close to Class A. And this is where it actually is whispering the name Martha. Just so you know, Martha was proven to be the name of the daughter who died in the house, in the kitchen area, and that's where these recordings were taken. The yeah and the ones asking the name and where we got Martha, they were all taken in the kitchen. There's another one that we did, and this one was taken in the garage, and I believe this was with the Shack Hack radio going on. The husband asked if it's talking about understanding, so I'll play that for you.
Care about you, just don't understand.
So that response seemed to be an I did. Now, in the garage area, which, as I said, was the location of the corn crib, that's not there anymore. But the husband said his vehicles, his truck in particular, would have problems, electrical issues with it, not running properly, but not having any problems with it outside of the garage. It only seemed to happen in the garage. So he was getting that kind of activity in there.
Care about you, just don't understand.
During the investigation, we were pretty confident with the fact that the house is definitely haunted. Definitely the daughter of the house who died there is there. The mother is most likely still there. They had seen her. There was another recording that we got, and unfortunately I do not have a copy of that EVP currently. It is on my cousin's recorder that I need to try to get off. But my aunt was in the yard talking, because apparently they hear the singing, like a woman singing. In the yard, we have a recording, and when my aunt played that for us, we thought my aunt was like babbling on this recording. And she was like, no, guys, I was just standing there holding the recorder. I wasn't even talking. It's somebody who either sounds like my aunt or who was mimicking how my aunt sounded, which I've heard of happening in other investigations. It sounded like her. So hopefully in the future I can get that EVP and share that with you. But the big part about this story and the amusing thing about this story and the reason why Angelina and Kelly suggested that I share this investigation with you really has nothing to do with the EVPs that I've played for you. They're really cool and they're great and they are authentic EVPs. But sometimes when you're on an investigation, especially with people that you don't really know, weird things can happen. And by weird things, I'm not referring to paranormal things. I'm referring to the weird things that people feel the need to do to try to prove their own story. So during this investigation, Kelly, my aunt, and I were convinced we're getting good stuff. We're getting really good stuff. We are thrilled with some of these EVPs that we're getting. And I've just shared a few of those with you today. I've not shared all of them with you. There are more, but these were kind of the cream of the crop, the better ones. The lady who was a former owner who was there during the investigation, we were letting them use our recorders. We were letting them try them out because I'm a big proponent of teaching. If somebody wants to learn how to do this, I want to try to help them learn. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with ghosts, with the paranormal. I read every book that the library had, and it wasn't many. It was the old, Hans Holzer books and the Time Life books about ghosts and things like that. That's what I grew up reading, and there really wasn't a whole lot of information out there for somebody like me who was so interested in it until the internet came about. And then that's when you started meeting other people and hearing other people's theories and ideas about things. So I'm all for letting people learn about the equipment, use the equipment, so they can learn, so they can develop an interest or just see what it's all about. I think that's important, especially in a field like this. You don't have any experts in this field. Nobody is a ghost expert because there is no proven science behind this. I've said it before, the only way to prove things are happening or the paranormal exists is by disproving everything else. But even then, it's not really proof. You're just saying, I'm left with no other explanation. So it could be this. It could be ghosts. Anyway, so I'm really big on hands-on. If people want to learn how to use the equipment properly and test it out, I'm all for letting them do that. So anyway, this woman was there at the house. She went to the garage with one of the digital recorders. She comes back and she plays the EVP she got. She's all excited about this EVP. So she plays it back for us. When she plays it back, Kelly and I kind of share a look while we're listening to it. The family, the husband and wife, the current owners, are unnerved by this, especially the wife. She was a little freaked out by this. Kelly and I just kind of shared a look. So I'm going to play the EVP now for you before I finish telling you the rest of the story. So here it is. Here's the EVP that she recorded.
Are you here? Would you talk to me, please? Can you tell me your name? I used to live here when the old corn crib and the garage, the pig pen, chicken house was here. We found a union reward sign tacked on the side of the garage. Do you know who put it there? Is this you, John? Nevin, is it you? Peter? Do you have something you want to tell me? What do you want to tell me?
So the issue here is the part where it's the very deep sounding voice that is saying yes. And here's the issue. Kelly and I felt from the moment we heard it that this was not an authentic EVP, that somebody somehow was creating this EVP. This was coming from a living person. This was not a typical EVP that we record. And at this point in our investigating career, so to speak, we had tons of EVP recordings. I think between everybody in my family, we had 6 recorders. We at least have 5. I want to say 6. We have 5. It might be 5. Anyway, we have a lot of these recorders. So everybody's investigating. Everybody is doing EVP. We have hundreds and hundreds of EVP. We've listened to hundreds and hundreds of EVP. And this one just didn't ring true to us. So I'm going to play it again before I finish the story. So here it is again. So anyway, I'm home. The investigation is over. I'm back at my house and I'm going through all of the evidence. And it takes a long time to do that. I have to go back and look through all 4 cameras that are recording in the house with the infrared setup with the monitor. I have to look at all of that. And I have the video from the camcorders that were set up, specifically the one that was set up in the garage. So I am looking at the footage in the garage and there's nothing going on. I don't have anything until I get to the time frame where the former owner, the lady who owned the house formerly, she's in the garage doing this EVP session. And on the video, I am watching her and she takes a bottle of soda of some sort, warm soda in a bottle, and she chugs it. And after she chugs it, that's when she seems to get the EVP where you have the very deep voice saying yes. So basically what happened was she chugged the soda, asked her question, and then belched loud and long enough and said the word yes while she was belching. And then after she did that, she stopped recording. And then she went back and listened to her recording because, of course, I had taught her how to use the recorder. She plays it back. And after she hears herself belch the word yes, she nods her head like she's saying to herself, yup, that sounds real. It sounds like a good one. And she then turns around and leaves the garage. She had no clue that the recorder, the camcorder, was actually filming. Whether she forgot it was there or what, I'm not really sure, because it wasn't in the middle of the room. It was off to the side against the wall and pointing to videotape as much of the garage as possible in the event we got anything paranormal on the camcorder. But basically what we ended up recording was her little phony EVP session where she's belching the word yes. I'm going to play this one more time for you because now that you know, you probably can tell.
Do you have something you want to tell me?
So that was a pretty awkward reveal, because once I check out the footage and everything and the recordings that we receive, then I make an appointment with the family to go back and share with them everything that I have gotten. And usually I make a DVD, not a DVD, but a CD of the recordings and everything that they have that they can share with whoever they'd like. I have to meet with this family and I have to tell them that this woman, who I assume is a good friend of theirs, faked this yes, because the wife, and I saved it for last. I went over all of the other EVPs that I got, the best ones. I shared everything. And then the wife was really freaked out by this. I mean, it had really unnerved her because she felt it sounded demonic because it was that deep voice. And that really doesn't ever mean anything because I get a lot of deep, guttural, almost yelling voices in EVP. It means nothing. It's just how it's picked up on the recorder. But the wife was freaked out. She was thinking demons, evil, whatever was in her house is evil, and she was unnerved. So I had to bring it up and I said, I'm saving this one for last. So I play it for them. And I have to explain that the lady that you had at your house actually faked this and was drinking soda in order to burp to be able to burp loudly while saying the word yes. And I said, I know this for a fact. I said, when I heard the recording, Kelly and I immediately knew that this was not an authentic EVP. It just didn't sound right. I said, and then when I was watching the video footage, I actually have video footage of her chugging the soda and then belching the word and nodding after she played it back to herself like, yep, that's really great. So that's kind of like the funny end of investigations. The wife was super relieved to find out she did not have demons in her house. The husband, he kind of laughed at it. I don't want to go into detail about what he said because who knows? Maybe they listened to this. I don't really know. And I don't want to cause any hard feelings with anybody. But it was kind of a shame that she was doing that because, as you heard, we actually were getting pretty decent EVP. We didn't need anybody to fake EVP. We were getting good stuff. Anyway, it's just a funny investigation, an awkward thing that I had to do to go back to say, yeah, your friend totally faked that whole belching EVP thing. That is my investigation into this house, this log cabin. They had invited us back again later, but they wanted it to happen at a specific time. And I work, Kelly works, I have family, I have kids. It's just too crazy and we weren't able to do it. But if given the chance to be able to go back, I would love to go back there because it definitely had a lot of things happening and got a lot of good EVP with it. So that's bringing us to pretty much the conclusion of this episode. As I said, this is a little bit shorter than a normal episode, but I had a request from a family friend, Liz, who I don't know if I've mentioned her on the actual podcast. I talk about her while we're recording, but it may not always make it in there. But Liz is a longtime family friend. She's actually going to be going to the Sasquatch Calling Festival in Whitehall, New York with me, September 25th. That's a Saturday. It looks like a lot of fun. There is a link to their page and a flyer on our Facebook social media. Liz has her own business. It's called So Sci-Fi and Beyond. So is spelled S-E-W. And she makes quilts and all kinds of small little doodads and all kinds of stuff. And it's geared towards like horror movies or Bigfoot, anything like that. So trust me, if you like this podcast, you're going to like her stuff. I have a key fob that is Scooby-Doo that I love, that I've had for years. She sells crocheted hats that I think are just fabulous because I'm the one who crocheted them. She just has a lot of stuff. Doctor Who, all kinds of stuff. Harry Potter, you name it, she's got it or can make it. So check that out. Anyway, Liz suggested that perhaps I share some of the books or movies or documentaries or whatever that I recommend for people to listen to or to read. So I thought, well, I will throw a few of those out here at the end of the podcast here. So for podcasts, there are a ton of podcasts that I listen to, and some of them are better than others. None of them are better than us, which I'm joking because, totally joking. Of course, I have mentioned Darkness Radio. I believe it's called Darkness on the Edge of Town with Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis. I have listened to them for many, many years and think he's fabulous and recommend his show 100%. I have listened to Astonishing Legends off and on. They do a lot of really intense deep dives where they have several episodes of different topics. Sometimes I really like that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't have the brain focus for anything longer than about an hour and a half. So, it's up to your personal taste, but I do think they do an excellent job. They have an excellent research group that does great work. So I recommend them for paranormal podcast. True crime, right now I'm listening to Mind Over Murder, which is, in the beginning, they talked about different cases. What I have focused on is that one of the hosts is Bill Thomas, and he is the brother of Kathy Thomas, who was one of the first victims in the Colonial Parkway Killer series of murders, which took place in the late 80s in the Tidewater region of Virginia, which if you've heard other podcasts from me, you know that I travel there quite a bit. I travel the Colonial Parkway often when I go to the various historic areas of Yorktown, Jamestown, Williamsburg. So they're doing an in-depth look at the Colonial Parkway murders. There are four separate instances. Each of them are couples. It's thought that they're related. It's not 100% proven, but they're interviewing family members of each of the couples that were killed, and it's done very well. I mean, Bill Thomas has a definite in. He's the brother of one of the ladies in the first couple murder. So I recommend that. That's Mind Over Murder. And I like Small Town Dicks, which features Yardley Smith, who is the voice of Lisa Simpson. And let me tell you, it's really hard. Basically, it feels like Lisa Simpson as an adult is doing this podcast, but it's great. I really like that. And they have seasons. So they were done with the season a month or two ago, so the new season hasn't started, but definitely go back. I think that's done in a really cool way. Another one that I enjoy listening to is Park Predators, and that is also, that's in its second season. And if you like to hike, travel to national parks, definitely this is one for you. They're not very long episodes, but they talk about different murders within national parks or state parks. So that's pretty interesting. So that's it for the moment for podcast. Documentaries. I don't really watch a whole lot of documentaries or paranormal TV, which you've heard often from me. I will say that I really like the Holzer Files, which you can find, I think, on Discovery Plus. Features Dave Schrader, and I think that's done really well. I do enjoy that. Sometimes they talk a little bit too much demon stuff, but I let it go. I find it entertaining. I really like that they're going back to these old paranormal locations and diving into Hans Holzer's files. I think that is a really cool and unique thing that they're doing. And Ghost Hunters, which is an old standby. Now, this is really funny because I am going to make a confession here. I never liked Ghost Hunters, the television show. I didn't care for it at all. And I didn't really watch it. However, I went to a paranormal convention in the beginning of June with Kelly and Angelina. Angelina is a huge Ghost Hunters fan, really likes Jason Hawes, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So we went there and I listened to him speak. Angelina really wanted to hear him speak. So we listened to him. He was on a panel with, I can't remember the other guy's name, and I apologize for that. He was a skeptic. So basically, Jason Hawes sat up there and said almost verbatim everything I have ever said about paranormal television. About the demon issue with everything's a demon, with the issue with editing, having to find something all the time. It was like, holy crap, all this time, we have the same thoughts, but I'm not watching you. So I highly recommend Jason Hawes' Ghost Hunters, and I think the new one is called Ghost Nation. I watched a couple episodes of that, and that was pretty fascinating as well. So I do recommend them because I think they really want to figure out what the heck is going on at these places. They do research, they really look into it, and I think that they are trying to be authentic and truthful and present things as they're finding and discovering it. So those are two shows that I would recommend. And books. Oh my gosh. So books, I have a ton of paranormal books. I haven't even read all of them. I find them and I buy them. And I have a collection. It's my paranormal library. Basically, these are the books that I would recommend right now based on what I'm looking at on my shelves. Missing 411. I enjoy those books. If you like the Missing 411 series, I recommend you getting those books. Do not buy his books on Amazon. You will pay way too much money. Go to his website. I will put it in the show notes here. I will try to put links to everything I'm talking about in this little section. The Missing 411 books can be purchased directly from David Paulides. That's where you want to buy them. They're around $25-ish. Definitely purchase them from him. Those are good. They're written in an investigative way. David Paulides is a former police detective. They are written like a former police detective. There is nothing frilly about his writing. It's very matter of fact. They're written kind of like reports. I also recommend for cryptid stuff, The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, which I did mention in the Mothman episode, which is episode 1. And that's a good book if you're interested in Mothman. That kind of really is my go-to. That was my go-to for research. So I will make sure I put that in the show notes as well. For ghost story type things, I have a collection of some of the Ghost of Virginia books by L.B. Taylor Jr. And I recommend his books. He does an excellent job of writing and researching, and I have used those quite a bit, either to investigate areas that I'm going to, investigate areas to, like if I'm on vacation and I want to find a place to go to in Virginia, I open his books to find a place to check out. So that's definitely a series of books that I would recommend. The weird books, so Weird Hollywood, Weird Maryland, Weird Pennsylvania, Weird New Jersey, all of those books I think are pretty cool. They have haunting things, they have monsters, they have weird stuff. It's just any strange thing you can think of for a state, that's what's in there. I recommend those books. The other author that I recommend, and this is going to sound strange, but I don't actually own any of his books. And I'm going to have to rectify that. But he's a phenomenal speaker. Jeff Belanger he's a friend of Dave Schrader's, but he speaks a lot on New England legends. In fact, he has a podcast called New England Legends. I think he also has a television show of some sort, also called New England Legends. He's on Facebook in a group called New England Legends, and he's written a few books, and I highly recommend anything that he writes because he writes the way he speaks, and he's an excellent speaker. I really want to get his book about his travels to Kilimanjaro. He climbed Kilimanjaro, and it was kind of a life-changing thing for him. Not necessarily paranormal in the sense of ghosts paranormal. Definitely a really good experience and story. Excellent speaker. I've heard him speak many times. So if you come across one of his books, I say grab it, read it. I think you'll enjoy it. So I think that's going to do it for this short episode. And as always, you can find us wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcasts. We're on all of the major ones. We're on most of the not major ones. I don't even remember what all we're on, but we're on basically everything. You can find us, no problem. If you can't find us on your favorite podcasting app, you can certainly find us at lurkpodcast.com. All of the episodes are located there. The links to all of our social media are located there. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, and we have a new YouTube channel. The YouTube is now up to date with all of the episodes are posted on there. Basically what I do is any photos that are related to the episode, I include in a slideshow that plays, so you can kind of look at things while you're listening. The link to that is on our website. I recommend that you like, follow, or subscribe to one or all of those, because on the social media platforms, I post any photos that are important to the episode, that have anything to do with the episode. I will post on the social media. Any updates on episodes, I try to post an episode calendar for each month. Of course, this one I will have to update and re-release because I totally changed everything. Any funny thing I find, anything paranormal I think might be important to share, and any events that we may be going to. Like I said, we will be in Whitehall, New York, September 25th for the Sasquatch Calling Festival. I am really looking forward to that. Apparently there are a lot of really cool vendors. There's tons of speakers. I am supposed to be speaking. And there's food trucks, there's a bouncy house, but it looks like it's going to be a really cool event. And of course you have the Sasquatch Calling. So I know on our Facebook, I think I have shared the link to the video that ESPN did. This is like a big deal. ESPN has done a couple of videos about this festival. It's a big deal. If you're in the area, come by, say hi. It's a free event. It does not cost money to show up. And if you're not in the area, travel, come see us, get out, see the fall colors changing. It's right near Lake Champlain. You can go check out Champ because that's what I'm going to be doing. And you can check out all the cool Bigfoot stuff in the town of Whitehall. Anyway, so definitely get on our social media in some format and keep track of everything that's going on. We also have a link directly. We have a domain name for our merchandise. It's Lurk Podcast Merch, MERCH.com. We have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. I think I was corrected. Liz said it's hoodies instead of sweatshirts. I think I'm aging myself. I don't know. We have stickers, all kinds of stuff. I'm getting ready to do a couple new designs. They're pretty simple, but a couple new things I'll be putting up there in the coming days. So check that out. Buy a t-shirt. Help me pay for the podcast, which is always awesome. So anyway, that is it for episode 19. And as always, keep lurking.